A man's hand presses against a column of impossible darkness. The column does not push him away. It takes him. His arm vanishes to the elbow, then the shoulder, then the rest. Above him, two moons hang in a sky that has never seen Earth. Around him, a city built of coral and starlight pulses in slow blue rhythm. Towers spiral up like prayers. Bridges stretch between them, thin as breath. A woman with skin the color of deep ocean water stands a few paces behind. Her hands are clasped at her back. Her face is the careful blank of someone trying not to hope. She is queen of a dying people. He is a stranger who woke up 1,000 years too late. She has spent 11 nights without sleep, waiting for this moment. A bead of sweat runs down his temple. He does not pull his hand back. The column begins to glow. Part 1. The hand pressed against the dark column. A man's hand, calloused, scarred at the knuckle. A wedding ring still on the fourth finger, though the woman it had been promised to was 1,000 years dead and did not know it. Around him, a city of impossible architecture pulsed in slow blue light. Two moons hung in a sky that was not the sky of Earth. Towers spiraled up like coral grown in deep water. Bridges stretched between them, thin as thread. The column took his hand, pulled it inward. His arm vanished to the elbow. Then the light came. It came not as a flash, but as a tide rolling outward from the column, and waves of blue shot through with gold. The city woke beneath it. Walls flushed bright, veins of light filled with current. Somewhere a woman with deep aquamarine skin pressed her palm to her mouth and made a sound that was not quite a word. Cut to black, a voice, quiet, older than it sounded. 40 days before this, he was still asleep. The first thing Marcus Holloway felt when he came back from death was the knee. Not death exactly, cryogenic suspension, but for all practical purposes, death. His body had been frozen at minus 196 degrees Celsius for 1,047 years. His heart had not beaten in over a millennium. His lungs had not drawn breath. His blood had not moved. And still, the knee. It throbbed exactly the way it had thrown the morning before he stepped into the cryopod. The same dull burn down the inside of the joint. The same stiffness that took two careful flexes to work through. The same small, angry pulse that said, "I am here, I will always be here. You do not get to forget me." He had heard it playing basketball, a pickup game his second year of college. Some guy he barely knew had come down on the outside of his knee, and something inside the joint had given way with a sound he still remembered. The doctors said it was fine, the scans said it was fine, but Marcus had woken up every morning for 23 years knowing the doctors were wrong. Apparently 1,000 years of being frozen solid did not change that. He lay on his back and stared at the ceiling and waited for his brain to catch up. The ceiling moved, not in the way a ceiling fan moves. The whole surface rolled in slow waves, bluish, faintly luminous, with pale veins of light crawling through it like roots in time-lapse. His brain did not catch up. His brain was still somewhere in the year 2091, sitting in a cryopod aboard the Meridian, while a technician named Hollis read the countdown from a clipboard. Marcus had made it to 7. Then nothing. Then this ceiling. The gap between 7 and this ceiling was, he would later learn, 1,047 years. But right now, he did not know that. Right now, he was a man with a bad knee on a warm slab in a room that looked like the inside of something alive trying to remember how to blink. A piece of the wall open. It did not slide. It did not swing. It peeled, the way skin parts over a wound. And a woman stepped through. She was not tall. That was what registered first, and he was not sure why that detail came before any other, but it did. Maybe 5'5", maybe 5'6". She had skin the color of deep ocean water and the kind of cove you only find on a postcard. Aquamarine, bottomless. Her hair fell past her shoulders in a long dark indigo that should have looked black, except the ends glowed faintly like the last embers of a fire turned all the way down. Her eyes were copper gold, threaded with violet. They looked at him the way a museum curator looks at a painting that has just told her something it was not supposed to know. She wore something that might have been a robe and might have been armor. Hard to tell. The fabric caught and ate the light at its edges, so the woman seemed less like a person and more like a moving piece of dusk. She stood very still inside the room, watching him, with the patience of someone who had been waiting for a long time and could wait a little longer. "You are awake," she said. Marcus opened his mouth and produced a sound like a shoe scraping wet concrete. He swallowed. Tried again. "Where am I?" "Safe." "That is not what I asked." The woman tilted her head. The motion was close to human, but not quite, like a translation that was accurate but missed the idiom. "My name is Lyrith Davon. I am the Queen of the Valerie. Your vessel was found drifting 600 years ago by my mother's people. You have been in our care since then. Before that, you were in suspension aboard your own ship for approximately 400 years. The total elapsed time since you entered cryogenic sleep is 1,047 years." Marcus processed this the way a computer processes a file too large for its memory, in chunks. The first chunk was the number itself, 1,000. The second chunk was the word years. The third chunk was the sudden, soft, devastating realization that the woman he had married was not waiting for him somewhere. She had been dead 1,000 years. Her grave, if she had a grave, had probably been paved over 6 different times by now. The little house they had picked out in Asheville before she got sick was almost certainly forest again. He sat up. His abdominals refused the request the first time. He did it anyway. His body screamed at him in 3 languages, but he got there. "The others," he said. His voice was steadier than he expected. "The Meridian had 4,712 people on board. All alive," Lyrith said. "All still in suspension." "Why wake me, specifically? Out of all of them, why me?" She did not answer right away. She had a face that did not give things away easily. A face that had practiced for a long time at not giving things away. But for 1 second before she answered, Marcus saw the door behind her face open a crack. He saw the cost of what she was about to say. "I need something from you, Marcus Holloway," she said. "Something only you can provide. You know my name. I know a great deal about you." "That is unsettling." She blinked, slowly, like a cat reading the room. "Perhaps? Will you walk with me? It will be faster to show you than to explain." He swung his legs off the platform. The bad knee buckled the moment it took his weight. He caught himself on the edge of the slab, stood there hunched over, breathing through his nose, feeling the joint throb the way it always did when he asked too much of it too fast. Then he straightened up, and he followed her. The hallway curved. Every hallway he would see in this place curved. There were no straight lines in Valori architecture, which was disorienting in a way that snuck up on you. You could never see more than a few paces ahead. Every turn felt like the first turn. So after 5 minutes of walking, Marcus had no idea whether they had moved 100 feet or a mile. "Your ship was bound for a colony site," Lyrith said as they walked. Her voice traveled along the curved walls the way water travels along a riverbed. "Kepler 442b. It never arrived. A navigation failure in the 3rd century of the voyage pushed the Meridian off course. By the time we found it, the ship was drifting through empty space with no reachable star system. And you scooped us up. We believed your species was extinct. Earth had gone silent centuries before we encountered the Meridian. Your vessel was the only evidence we had that humans had ever existed at all. So we were museum pieces. You were a question." "Same thing." "No," she said. "It is not." They came to an opening and Marcus stopped walking because the floor dropped away. Below them was a city. Not a city the way Houston had been a city. Not a city the way the colony brochures had shown Kepler 442b. This was something else. A cavern so vast he could not see the far wall, filled with structures that rose from the ground in spirals and helixes, connected by bridges that seemed grown rather than built. Everything glowed. A soft blue bioluminescence ran through walls and floors and bridges in rhythms that were almost synchronized the way a crowd of people breathes at slightly different rates. In the center stood a column, dark material, maybe 200 feet tall. It did not glow at all. It ate the light around it like a hole in the scenery. Marcus stared at it, and the column, somehow, stared back. He did not know how he knew that. There was no face, no eyes, nothing that should have been able to look at him. But the pull was unmistakable, the feeling at the edge of a tall building. Not the fear of falling, the other thing, the magnetic thing, the pull that comes before fear. This is Alindra, Lyrith said. It is the last functioning Valori settlement. The last. There were 7. 6 have failed. The structures degraded, the population declined, and eventually the cities became uninhabitable. The process takes about 2 generations once it begins. What causes it? She lifted her hand, turned it palm up. He looked. Beneath the surface of her aquamarine skin, dark lines ran along the veins. Up her wrist, into the soft hollow of her forearm. They pulsed faintly, out of sync with her heartbeat, like a second circulatory system carrying something that was not blood. We call it the fade, she said. It begins at the cellular level. The bonds between cells weaken and eventually break. Tissue loses cohesion. The body comes apart from the inside. It is slow. It takes years. And there is no treatment, because it is not a disease. What is it then? A deficiency. Our biology requires something it is no longer receiving. We have spent 7 generations trying to identify what, and we have failed. He looked at the column, the dark thing at the center of the city, the thing that did not glow. That structure, he said. What is it? We call it the threshold. It predates every record we have. We did not build it. We do not know who did. It has been dormant for 7 generations, and the fade began the year it stopped functioning. Have you tried turning it back on? She looked at him, and the look held something Marcus did not know how to name. Pain, maybe, or the patience of someone who had been asked the same question by every well-meaning person she had ever met and had stopped expecting them to be the one to answer it. Every Valerie approach has been attempted, she said. Every technology, every biology, every theory. The threshold does not respond to us at all. It is, as if we do not exist to it. But you think a human might. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, our oldest surviving documents. Fragments written in a language so old that most of it cannot be translated anymore. They describe visitors from another world who interacted with the threshold naturally. The physical descriptions in those fragments are consistent with human biology. And you picked me out of 4,700 people. Because what? I have the right blood type. Your cellular profile was the closest match. Our analysis took 11 years. 11 years to pick one guy out of a lineup. It was a very important lineup. He could not tell if she was being dry or serious. With her face, it could have been either. With her face, it could have been both. He looked at the column again. The threshold stood there in the middle of a city full of bridges. A closed fist in a room full of open hands. Something about it pulled at him in a way he could not describe. Not in words that would have meant anything to him 2 days ago. I am not saying yes, he said. I am saying I want to see my ship. I want to talk to someone who is not you, and then maybe. I will think about it. That is fair, she said. She walked him to the Meridian. The ship was housed in a bay on the outskirts of Alindra, cradled in a lattice of Valori construction that made the angular human vessel look like a brick sitting in a bird's nest. Marcus put his hand on the hull. The metal was cold, human cold. The most familiar thing in a world that had lost all familiarity. He stood there for a while, his wife, his mother, the kid down the street who used to mow his lawn, the diner on Patterson Avenue, The taste of cheap coffee at 4 in the morning. The way light hit the kitchen sink on a Sunday. All of it. Gone. He kept his hand on the hull because the metal was cold. And cold was real. And real was something he needed right now more than he needed to breathe. "She isn't being straight with you," a voice said behind him. He turned. The Valori standing in the doorway was built like a man who had been in a lot of fights and won most of them. Darker blue skin than Lirith, the blue of deep glacier ice. His silver hair was cropped short. A scar ran down the left side of his face. From the temple, past the eye, stopping at the jaw. It had a story Marcus was not sure he wanted to hear. His eyes were gold with an amber edge, and they were not friendly. "Ren Vask," the man said, "I command what is left of our military. Marcus Holloway, I fix things that are broken. Supposedly. The Queen thinks you are going to save us. I am not sure what I think yet." "Good. Then there is still time for someone to tell you the truth before you decide." Marcus waited. Ren leaned against the doorframe, crossed his arms, watched Marcus the way a man watches a horse he is considering buying, looking for the things the seller does not want him to look at. "Ask her about the navigation failure," Ren said. "The one that sent your ship off course. Ask her what caused it. Watch her face when she answers." "You're not exactly being subtle." "I am not paid to be subtle. What are you paid to do?" "I am paid to keep this city alive long enough for it to forgive itself." That sentence sat in the air between them. Marcus did not understand it. Not yet. But he heard the shape of it, the way the words leaned against each other, like a man holding up a wall that wanted to fall. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus said. "Because I have buried a lot of friends in the last 40 years. And I am tired of burying people who died for a lie they did not know they were dying for." Ren pushed off the doorframe, turned to leave, stopped. "One more thing, engineer." "Yeah, your bad knee, the way you walk, the way you favor the right leg. I have seen that walk before. On veterans, on men who came home from things they cannot stop carrying. It is just an old basketball injury. It is never just." And then he was gone. Marcus stood at the hull of the Meridian for a long time after. His knee throbbed. His wife was 1,000 years dead. A queen with copper eyes had asked him to save her species. A soldier with a scar had told him not to trust her. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, he had to decide whether he was a man who said yes or a man who said no. He did not know yet. He did not know. He went to find Lyrith that night, and the city had a different rhythm at night. The bioluminescence dimmed, the pulse slowed. The walls did something that looked like breathing only slower. Like the city itself was asleep. Like Alindra was a creature with 1,000 lungs. He found her in a chamber that was not quite a throne room, not quite an office, something in between. She stood at a tall, narrow window that looked out over the lower city, her hands behind her back, her dark indigo hair down her spine, the glowing tips of it like a small constellation pinned to her shoulders. She did not turn when he came in. She had known he was coming. "I want to wake one of my people," he said. "A biologist. Her name is Iris Calloway. If you want me to even consider what you are asking, I need someone on my team who understands cells. Yours, mine, anyone's." I expected this request. "Of course you did." "Marcus." "Don't." She turned. Her face, in the soft blue light, was different. Less queen, more woman. The cost of her was sitting closer to the surface in this room than it had been anywhere else. "I expected it," she said, "because I would have asked the same." That stopped him. He had not expected to be agreed with. He had built up momentum for an argument that was not going to happen. The momentum had nowhere to go. "Wake her," Lyrith said, "tomorrow." "Thank you." "Marcus." "Yes." What did the soldier say to you? He looked at her. He thought about lying. He was a bad liar. He had always been a bad liar. Holly had told him once that the only thing he was worse at than lying was hiding the fact that he was lying. She had laughed when she said it. The sound of that laugh was the thing he missed most in the world. He told me to ask you about the navigation failure, Marcus said. On the Meridian. Whatever caused it. She did not answer, but the door behind her face opened a little wider this time. And Marcus saw for the first time what was on the other side. She was afraid. She was not afraid of him. She was afraid of what was going to happen when he found out. Wake your biologist, she said, quietly. We will speak about the navigation failure after. You promise. I promise. Don't make me regret asking. I will not. He left. He did not sleep. The chamber they had given him had a bed that looked like a bed and felt like a bed and was probably a bed by any reasonable definition. But he lay on top of the covers in the clothes they had given him, and he stared at the ceiling, and the ceiling moved, and he counted the slow rolling waves of light, and he thought about his wife. Her name had been Holly. She had laughed at his bad jokes. She had loved bad television. She had died of a thing the doctors could not name. They had called it idiopathic, which was the medical word for we do not know. And then she had been gone. And he had signed up for the Meridian 3 months later because there was no point staying on Earth without her, because the apartment they had shared had become a museum of her absence, because he was 43 years old and tired, and he wanted to wake up somewhere that did not remind him she was not there. Now he was 1,000 years from her grave. Now her grave was probably not even a grave. Now a queen with copper eyes had told him he was the only one who could save a species that was dying, and he did not know yet if he believed her. Iris Calloway came out of Cryo coughing and swearing, which Marcus found enormously reassuring. Her red hair had clearly fought the cryopod and lost. Her blue eyes were sharp the way a knife is sharp. Within 20 minutes of being conscious, she had asked 9 questions, 4 of which Marcus could not answer, and the 5th of which he had to write down to remember. He told her everything. The 1,000 years, the Valori, the Fade, the Threshold, Lirith, Ren, the navigation failure he had not yet been told the truth about. Iris listened, did not interrupt, did not panic. When he was done, she said, "Show me their cells." 6 hours later, she walked into his chambers without knocking. She had the look of a woman who had just learned that gravity worked differently than she thought it did. Marcus, tell me. Their cells are wrong. Wrong how? There's a layer woven into the biological structure. Something that is not organic, not inorganic either. Something else. The closest analogy I can think of is an antenna. Their cells are built to receive a signal. A signal. Remove the signal, and the cells lose structural cohesion. That is the fade. That is what is killing them. Their cells are not malfunctioning. They are starving for a transmission that stopped 7 generations ago. He stared at her. The threshold, he said. It is the transmitter. It has to be. The timing matches. 7 generations dormant. 7 generations of cellular decay. She sat down on the floor, which was the Valori version of a chair, but Iris did not care about protocol. Marcus, if you can restart that thing, you can save them. But we have 0 data on what it does to humans. For all we know, it cooks your brain like an egg. Encouraging. I'm a biologist, not a motivational speaker. He laughed. The first time he had laughed since he woke up. It was a small laugh, a tired one, but it was real. And it surprised him, and it surprised her. And she gave him a look that said, "Welcome back to being a person." Then her face changed. Marcus? What? There's more, and you are going to want to sit down. He did not sit down. There's a marker, Iris said, in their DNA, a very specific genetic signature. I checked it against my own sample, and then I checked it against yours. And, and she did not finish. He understood, or he understood that he did not understand, and he understood that he was about to. Tomorrow, he said, we are going to have a very long conversation with the Queen. Yes, Iris said, we are. He found Lyrith in a place he had not been before. A garden, or something like a garden. It grew up the inside wall of a tall chamber in spirals of pale crystal that bloomed at the tips like flowers made of slow frost. The air smelled of cold stone and something faintly sweet. The light here was different, warmer, almost the color of a candle. She was kneeling beside one of the spirals, touching its base with the tips of her fingers. When she heard him come in, she did not look up. This was my mother's garden, she said. He stopped. She had not said my mother before. She had said my mother's people once. She had said my predecessors. She had not said my mother like the word had a face. She died when I was 14, Lyrith said. The fade. She held on longer than most. She was a queen. Queens hold on longer. I do not know if it is the title that gives us the strength or the strength that gives us the title. I have stopped trying to decide. She died here, at the base of this spiral. She put my hand on the crystal so I could feel it growing, so I would know that something in this city was still alive while she was leaving. And then she left. Marcus did not say anything, because there was nothing to say. He thought about Holly. He thought about her hospital room. The way the light came through the blinds and stripes. The way her hand had gotten so thin he could see every bone. The way she had squeezed his fingers at the end and said, "Don't be alone too long." And the way he had been alone for the rest of his life anyway. "How long have you been queen?" he asked. 80 years. By yourself. By myself. He let that sit. Then he said, "I need to ask you what caused the navigation failure on the Meridian." She closed her eyes. She did not get up. "A faction within the Valerie," she said. "They opposed the mission. They sabotaged the navigation system. The mission to bring humans here." "Yes. Because the Valerie built the Meridian." Silence. Yes. He had thought he was prepared. He was not prepared. The word landed in him the way bad news always lands. Not all at once. In layers. The first layer was disbelief. The second was anger. The third was the sick, slow understanding that everything he thought was his story had actually been someone else's plan. "My ship," he said, "my voyage, my years of training, my wife waving at me from the launch pad, all of that. It was a Valori project, disguised as a human one, funded through intermediaries who did not know who their funders were, built in a hangar that human governments believed was theirs. We needed humans to come here. We needed it to look like your idea." "Why?" "Because the threshold answers to your kind, not ours. And we have been dying for 7 generations waiting for someone we did not know how to ask for." And the sabotage. Some of us did not want to ask. Some of us would rather die than admit we needed help from a species we believed to be beneath us. Those people destroyed the navigation array 3 centuries into your voyage. The Meridian drifted for 400 years before my mother's people found it. We have been keeping you alive ever since, waiting for the right moment, for the right person. And the right person is me. The right person is you. And you were going to tell me this when? After. The word was small. It was the smallest word in the room, and it carried 1,000 years. He stood there for a long time. He thought about leaving. He thought about turning around and walking out and finding the bay where his ship was, and pressing his hand to the cold human metal and refusing to move until they put him back in the pod. He thought about it. He did not do it, because his wife had told him, "Don't be alone too long." Because 4,712 people were asleep in cryopods, and they were not going to wake up unless he did something. Because the queen on her knees in the candlelight of her dead mother's garden was telling him the truth now, even though it cost her, and that meant something. And because his bad knee was killing him, And a man with a bad knee learns young to keep moving. Because if you stop the joint locks, and then you cannot start again. I am not saying yes, Marcus said. I am saying I am still here. She looked up. For the first time since he had met her, her face was open. The careful blankness was gone. The queen was gone. There was only a woman in a garden, a woman who had lost her mother at 14 and carried a city on her back for 80 years and asked a stranger for the one thing she could not give herself. Marcus, she said, yes. Iris found something in our DNA, you and her. She did. You should know what she found. Tell me. She stood up. She walked toward him through the slow blue light of the spirals. She stopped close enough that he could see the violet flecks in her copper eyes, close enough that he could see her breathe. We are not different species, she said. We are two branches of the same family. 1,000,000 years ago on your Earth, my people and your people were one people. And then we chose different paths. And then we forgot about each other. And then the threshold stopped working. And we have been dying for the lack of you. And you have been wandering for the lack of us. And neither of us knew. For 1,000,000 years, neither of us knew. He did not move. His knee was screaming. A long time ago on a kitchen floor in Asheville, Holly had told him that everybody was related if you went back far enough. She had said it like a joke. She had been holding a cup of coffee and laughing at something on the radio. And he had loved her so much in that moment that he had not been able to speak. He had not thought about that morning in 20 years. I am not asking you to forgive what we did, Lyrith said. I am not asking you to forgive the Valori who sabotaged your ship. I am not asking you to forgive me. I am not asking for anything I have the right to ask. I am asking anyway, because I have nothing left to do except ask. Lyrith, yes. What do you want from me? She closed her eyes. She opened them again. The candlelight in the garden moved across her face the way candlelight moves across the face of someone who is about to tell you the truest thing they have ever said. I want you to live, she said, long enough to decide, whether or not, to help us. The chamber was quiet. Somewhere outside the city pulsed. Somewhere far below in a bay he could not see his ship sat cold and waiting. Somewhere even further than that, 1,000 years behind him, a woman named Holly was in a kitchen with a cup of coffee laughing at the radio. Marcus Holloway did not say yes. Marcus Holloway did not say no. He said the only thing a man with a bad knee and a dead wife and a 1,000-year gap in his life could say to a queen in a candlelit garden full of growing crystal. He said, tell me everything. And she did. Part 2, she told him for hours. The candlelight in the garden of growing crystal moved across her face, and her voice did not waver, though Marcus could see what each sentence cost her. The way her hands stayed clasped behind her back, the way her shoulders did not move, the way a queen learns to deliver bad news, the way a surgeon learns to deliver bad news. Steady, even, with nothing in the voice that the listener can grab onto and use as a weapon. She told him about the founding of the Valori, about the 7 cities, about the slow collapse one after another like beads on a string slipping off the end. She told him about her grandmother who had watched the 3rd city fail, about her mother who had watched the 5th, about herself who would, if nothing changed, watch Alindra fail before she turned 90. She told him about the faction, the ones who had sabotaged the Meridian, 300 years into his voyage. A small cadre of Valori who believed asking humans for help was a humiliation worse than extinction. They had not believed in mercy. They had believed in purity. They had believed it was better for a noble species to die proud than to live in debt to one it considered lesser. They had reached into the Meridian's navigation array and twisted 3 commands by half a degree each. Half a degree at the start of a 400-year voyage was 1,000 light years by the end. Marcus did not interrupt. He sat on the floor of the crystal garden across from her and listened, his bad knee tucked under him, his hands folded in his lap, because there was nothing else to do, because the thing she was telling him was too big to argue with. You do not argue with a flood. You let it pass over you, and you see what is still standing afterward. When she finished, the candlelight in the garden had moved 1.5 feet across the floor. The crystal spirals had grown a little. She watched him with her violet-flecked eyes, and she waited. He did not say anything. He stood up. His knee told him exactly what it thought of him. He walked out. He walked. For hours. He walked. Because he had to. Because his body did not know what else to do with what his mind had just been handed. Because the curving hallways of Alindra were not a labyrinth designed to confuse him. They were a labyrinth designed for thinking, and he had a lot of thinking to do. He passed Valori in the corridors. Tall ones, short ones, old ones moving slow, young ones moving slower because the fade had already begun to reach into their bones. They looked at him. They did not stop him. They did not bow. They did not speak. They watched. The way a town watches a stranger who has arrived in a storm. He found himself, after some long stretch of time he could not measure, in a place he had not been before. A vault of pale crystal grew up the side of a chamber so tall he could not see the ceiling. The walls bloomed with frost-like growths that he now recognized as the slow alien biology of this place. There was a small bench, and on the bench, there was a woman. Valori. Old. He had not seen an old Valori up close yet. He had seen them in the distance. He had not known how old they could get. This one was tiny, stooped. Her aquamarine skin had gone almost translucent at the temples. Her hair was white now, no glow at the tips anymore, just white. Her hands in her lap were folded around a small spade. She was tending the base of one of the crystal spirals. She looked up when he came in. She smiled. It was a slow smile. "Engineer," she said. In English. The accent was old. The English was older. He stopped. "You speak my language. I learned, a long time ago, when I was young, when we still believed your people would come on their own." "How did you know it was me?" She gave a small laugh. It was the laugh of someone who has lived a very long time and has stopped being surprised by anything. There is only one human walking the corridors of Alindra. You are not difficult to identify. He sat down on the bench beside her. Slowly, the knee complaining. The bench did not bend. Valerie benches were grown, not built. They were strong the way coral is strong. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Tending." "Tending what?" "The garden. It is alive. Everything in Alindra is alive. You will get used to it." She returned to her spade. She tapped the base of the spiral. Gently. The crystal made a small chiming sound. Almost a bell. Almost a voice. She listened. She tapped again. Then she set the spade down and folded her hands. "You spoke with the queen," she said. "Yes." "For a long time." "Yes." "And she told you the truth." "Yes." The old woman nodded, slowly, once. "She has not slept," she said, "since she gave the order to wake you. She has not slept in 11 days. Marcus turned his head to look at her. The old woman did not look back. She was looking at the spiral. "How do you know that?" "Because I am her grandmother." A long beat. Marcus did not know what to do with that. Lyrith never said. She would not have. She does not. She keeps her queen and her family in separate rooms. It is how she carries them both. I am not offended. I would do the same. She turned her face to him. He saw then what 80 years of carrying something looked like, written into the lines around a Valori woman's eyes. "My granddaughter," the old woman said, "is the strongest creature I have ever known, and the loneliest, and she does not know how to ask for help. She gives orders. She makes decisions. She walks into rooms and takes the weight of every Valori still alive onto her shoulders. But she does not ask. She has never been allowed to ask. Until now. Until now. Until you. I have not said yes. I know. I have not said no either. I know. The old woman smiled again. Small, old, tired. Engineer, she said. Marcus. Marcus, may I tell you something? From an old woman who has very little time left and who has earned the right to be direct. Please. You are angry. Yes, you are allowed to be angry. Thank you. But anger is a fire. You can warm a house with it, or you can burn the house down. The choice is the same fire. The choice is only what you do with it. He looked at her. She did not look back. She was tending again, tapping the crystal with her spade, listening for the small chime, adjusting, listening. He sat with her for a long time. He did not say yes. He did not say no. He went to find Iris. Iris had taken over what passed for a laboratory in this place. The Valori had given her a chamber. They had brought her instruments she did not recognize. She had spent 2 days learning them, and now she was using them like they had been built for her. Iris had always been the kind of woman who did not wait for permission. Marcus loved that about her in the professional way one engineer loves another professional who knows what they are doing. She was bent over a console when he came in. Her red hair was tied back, her sleeves were rolled up. There was a smudge of something blue on her cheek that she had not noticed. Marcus, tell me what you found. The DNA thing. I want to hear it again, slowly. She straightened up. She gave him the look she always gave him when he asked for something twice. The look that said, "Are you sure you want me to do this to your day a second time? Are you sure?" Yes. She wiped her hands. She walked to the console. She brought up 2 strands of helix on the holographic display, one in blue, one in green. Blue is Valerie, she said. Green is human, specifically, you. Although I checked it against 3 other Meridian crew samples and the result holds. Show me. She pointed. Here, here, and here. 3 specific markers. They are not the same, but they are consistent. The way a brother and a sister are consistent. Not identical, related. The kind of related that does not happen by chance. How long ago? Hard to say exactly, but the molecular drift suggests at least 1,000,000 years. Possibly more. 1,000,000. Possibly more. She let him absorb it. He absorbed it. His knee throbbed. The thing Holly had said in a kitchen in Asheville with a cup of coffee in her hand came back to him again. Everybody is related if you go back far enough. She had been laughing when she said it. He could almost hear it now like a sound carried up from very deep water. Iris. Yes. What does this mean? It means that whatever the threshold is, whatever it does, it was built when these 2 species were one species or shortly after. It means the Valori are not strangers asking us for help. They are a family member who got separated from us so long ago that neither side remembered there was a family. And the threshold. The threshold is what kept the family in touch when it worked, and it stopped working 7 generations ago, and they have been dying ever since because they are missing us. Their cells are missing our signal, the signal that comes from us being near them, from the connection, whatever the connection is. He sat down. He sat down on the floor because there were no chairs in Valori laboratories, because there were no chairs in Valori anything, and because the floor was where Iris already was, and the floor was where this kind of news belonged. My wife, Marcus said. What about her? She would have loved this. He had not meant to say it. It came out anyway. Iris was quiet for a long time. She had known Holly. They had been friends in the small way that crewmates are friends with each other's spouses. She had been at the funeral. She would have, Iris said, finally, softly. She would have laughed, and then she would have made you explain it to her 3 times. And then she would have said, I told you so about something. I am not sure what, but she would have found a way to say, I told you so. He smiled. It hurt. Smiles hurt sometimes. Iris. Yes. I am going to do it. The threshold. I am going to try. She was quiet. She did not look at him. When she did look at him, her eyes were wet, and she did not bother pretending they were not. I knew you were. How? Because you are stupid in exactly the way Holly knew you were stupid. The good kind of stupid. The kind that fixes things. That is a compliment, right? In the context of this room, yes. He laughed. It was a different laugh than the one in the candle garden. It was a laugh with grief in the bottom of it, and grief always made laughter come out wrong somehow, but it was a laugh. I have to tell the queen, he said, and then I have to meet the council. There is a council. She mentioned a council. Apparently I have to be introduced. Marcus. Yes. Be careful. There are people on that council who do not want this. The faction that sabotaged your ship. Some of them are still alive. The Valori live a long time. Memory is a long time. Grudges are a long time. I know. I mean it. I know. He went. He did not know. The council chamber was a hollowed crystal dome, tall as a cathedral, lit from within the walls. 22 seats around a raised half-circle. He counted. 22 Valori sat in those seats, each one older than any human he had ever known, each one wearing dark robes that ate the light at the edges. Lyra sat in the center of the half-circle, not on a throne, on a seat the same as the others. But she was the queen, and even Marcus could see that no one in the room was unaware of where she sat. He walked in alone. His knee complained the whole way. He had asked Ren to come. Ren had said no. They will not respect a witness. They will respect you alone. Ren had said it the way you say something you have already lost an argument about with yourself. So Marcus walked in alone. The room was silent. He stopped at the center. He looked up at the 22 faces. They looked down at him, the way 22 judges look down at a single petitioner. Lyrith spoke. Council, this is Marcus Holloway, the human we have woken. He has agreed to attempt the threshold. She let that sit. She turned her eyes across the half-circle. Are there any? Who wish to speak before he is introduced? A pause, then a voice. I wish to speak. It came from the far left of the half-circle. A Valori rose. He was old, older than the old woman in the garden. His aquamarine skin had gone gray at the temples. His hair was the color of ash. His robe was darker than the others. Not black. Something past black. Something that pulled the eye toward it and then did not give the eye back. His name, as Marcus would learn 1 minute later, was Vex Karan. He stood. He did not look at Marcus. He looked at Lyrith. My queen, he said, before this creature is welcomed into our most sacred process. May I be permitted? A question. You may. Vex turned his eyes toward Marcus. They were not eyes that disliked him. They were eyes that had moved past disliking him. They were eyes that had decided a long time ago that he was not the kind of thing that deserved like or dislike. He was the kind of thing you assessed, the way you assess a tool. Engineer Vex said, May I ask, how is your leg? Marcus did not answer. He had not expected the question. He looked at Vex. He looked at Lyrith. He looked back at Vex. It is fine. It is not fine, Vex said, quietly, evenly. I have observed you walk. I have observed you stand. I have observed you favor the right side when you turn. The left knee is damaged. You have not been able to repair it in all your years of access to the medical technology of your own species. That is correct. Tell me, engineer, if you cannot repair your own knee, why would we trust you to repair the threshold? 21 other Valori in the chamber did not move, but Marcus felt the room lean toward him, the way a courtroom leans when the prosecutor lands a blow. He took a breath. "Sir, Lord Vex, if you must address me." "Lord Vex, with respect, my knee is not a machine, it is biology. I am not a doctor. You are an engineer. You repair systems. The knee is a system. You have not repaired it. You have walked on it for 23 years and you have not repaired it. So I ask again, why would we trust you with the threshold?" A silence, a long one. Marcus did not know what to say, because the truth was he could not repair his knee. Because Vex was right in a small, clean way that did not have anywhere for Marcus to put his foot down. Lyrith opened her mouth to intervene. Marcus saw her. He shook his head, almost imperceptibly. He did not want her to defend him. He did not say anything. He looked at Vex. He let the silence sit. The room read it as defeat. Marcus knew it was not defeat. He had simply chosen to not give Vex the dignity of an argument. There was nothing to argue. Vex had not asked a question he wanted answered. He had asked a question he wanted to use. Vex sat back down. "That is what I thought," Vex said. "To no one. To the floor. To the chamber." The council moved on. Lyrith spoke for 15 minutes. About the protocol, about the timing, about the placement of the bay where the attempt would happen. She did not look at Marcus. When she finally did, after the council had agreed in their slow Valori way to permit the attempt, her eyes were full of something he could not name. Not anger, not pity, something older than both. He nodded to her. She nodded back. He walked out of the chamber alone. The knee throbbed every step. The hallway curved. Ren was waiting outside. He fell in beside Marcus and did not speak for almost a minute. Then, "You should have let her defend you." "No." "Why?" "Because if she defends me, I am her thing, her project, her tool. They have to decide for themselves whether I am a man or not. She cannot decide it for them." Ren looked at him. For the first time since Marcus had met him, the soldier's gold eyes carried something other than judgment. "Engineer." "Yes?" "Vex Karen is dangerous." "I noticed." "You do not know yet how dangerous." "Tell me." They walked. The corridor opened to a wide platform overlooking the lower city. The bridges below them carried slow blue light from one tower to another. Somewhere below, a small Valori child was running faster than its mother, laughing at something Marcus could not see. Ren stopped at the railing. Vex Karen lost his wife 3 generations ago, to the Fade. He lost his daughter 2 generations ago, to the Fade. He lost his son 1 generation ago, to the Fade. He has buried his entire line. He has watched the Fade take everything he ever built, and he has been on the council the whole time. That is a lot of grief. It is more grief than a person should carry, and he has carried it for 300 years. And it has changed him. Engineer. He was not always the man who insulted you in that chamber. He was once a kind man. I knew him when I was young. He was the one who taught me my first weapons forms. He was the one who told me to be patient with the world. What happened? What happens when a man loses everything and there is no one to blame? Marcus said nothing. Ren rested his forearms on the railing. He has decided, Ren said, over those 3 centuries, that the Fade is the fault of your species. He believes if humans had been here, if your people had stayed when they should have, the Fade would never have begun. He is correct about that in a way. But he has turned correctness into hatred. And hatred, eventually, hatred is a kind of cancer. He wants me to fail. He wants you to fail in a way that proves him right. That is different from wanting you to fail. That is more dangerous. Marcus watched the small child running on the bridge below. Its laughter floated up through the slow blue light, its mother chasing it. tired, smiling, tired. Ren, yes. Did you lose someone too? To the fade. The soldier did not answer for a long time. He did not look at Marcus. My brother, he said. 12 years ago, he was 28, he was. Going to be a teacher. He had hands that should have. Built things. Should have. Held a child. The fade took him in his sleep. I went to wake him for training. And I could not. I am sorry. Engineer. Yes. Fix the threshold. I am going to. I know. That night Marcus went to find Lyrith again. She was not in the throne chamber. She was not in the council room. She was on a balcony he had not been to before. High. Higher than he had been before. The platform overlooked all of Alindra. Below them the city pulsed in its slow blue rhythm. The threshold at the center stood dark and silent, like a candle that had not been lit, like a question that had not been asked. She was alone. She stood at the railing with her hands behind her back. She did not turn when he came in. You should not have let Vex speak to you that way. It was his right. It was not. He has the grief, that is its own right. She did not respond. He came up beside her. He set his hands on the railing. He looked out over the city. My wife had a thing she used to say, he said, when I was upset about something at work, or someone had said something to me that I could not let go. She would say, the world has more pain in it than you can fix, Marcus. And you do not have to drink the pain just because someone is offering it to you. You can let them keep it. That is wise. She was wise. She was wiser than I was, by a wide margin. What was her name? Holly. Holly Holloway. Yes, that is a beautiful name. It is. Tell me about her. You first. She looked at him. She had not expected that. Me first. You first. Tell me about your mother, not the queen, the woman, the one in the garden, the one who put your hand on the crystal. She was quiet. He waited. She told him. She told him about a woman who had loved her too fiercely, about a woman who had taught her to listen to the crystal, about a woman who had refused to die on schedule and had held the fade off for 2 years longer than she should have, about a woman who had in her last week brought Lyrith to this very balcony at this very railing and said, one day the city will be yours. You will be tired. You will come up here and you will not know what to do. Listen. Listen for the city. The city will tell you. And does it? Marcus asked. Does it what? Tell you. Sometimes, yes. What does it tell you tonight? She did not answer. She looked at him. Her eyes in the low blue light were the color of a candle on the verge of being lit. Marcus. Yes. My hand. What about it? She lifted it. It was an inch from his on the railing. She did not close the distance. She left her hand there. An inch. 2. The space between two people who have not yet decided what they are to each other but are deciding in the way people always decide. By not moving away. He did not move his hand either. His knee throbbed. The city below them pulsed. And then, behind them, a sound. The wrong kind of sound. The kind of sound that is not supposed to be in a city this quiet at this hour. A footstep, soft, deliberate, trained. Marcus turned. 3 Valori, hooded, robed in the dark fabric that ate the light, moving fast, a blade in the led one's hand. Marcus shouted. Lyrith was already moving. She pulled him sideways hard behind a column on the balcony. The blade hit the railing where he had been and threw sparks of pale crystal into the night. Run, she said. No. Marcus, I am not leaving you. That is not your choice. It is exactly my choice. A second blade came around the column. A second hand grabbed it. Ren, he had come from nowhere. Or he had come from somewhere, but he had come fast. The scar on his face caught the blue light as he moved. He took the second attacker down with a single short motion that did not look like much until you noticed the attacker was on the ground and not getting up. Two left. Ren pushed Marcus and Lyrith behind him. Stay. Ren. Stay. The remaining two attackers reassessed. Marcus could see them deciding. He could see them deciding wrong. They moved forward. Ren moved forward to meet them. There was a noise. There was another noise. There was a third noise. When Marcus looked again, both attackers were down, and Ren was breathing hard with a small cut on his upper arm and an expression that suggested he was not surprised. Iris, Marcus said. Where is Iris? Ren's eyes changed. Engineer. Where is she? She is in the laboratory. She was. With the samples. They would have. Engineer. Marcus ran. His knee told him no. He ran anyway. The laboratory was 3 corridors away. He took them on a leg that was not designed for this. He took them on a leg that had not run since the year 2078. He took them on a leg that did not know how to forgive him. He burst into the chamber. The console was wrecked. The displays were dark, and Iris was on the floor. She was alive. She was alive. She was bleeding from a wound on her side that Marcus could not look at directly, the way you cannot look at the sun directly. She was conscious. Her red hair was matted to her temple. Her blue eyes found him. She tried to smile. They came for the samples. Iris. They wanted to destroy the proof about the DNA, about the connection. They did not get it. I sent the file to you already. Iris, stop talking. Marcus. Shut up, Iris. Lie still. Marcus, listen. What? I am okay. You are not okay. I am okay enough to tell you. The next part. Listen. Marcus. He knelt down beside her. His knee did not exist anymore. There was no knee. There was no body. There was only Iris and the floor and the small, terrible sound of her breathing. They were sent by someone on the council, Iris said. Her voice was thin but steady. I heard them. They said a name as they came in. They thought I was unconscious. They said Vex. Vex. Vex Karan, engineer. He is not just a counselor. He is the leader of the faction, the same faction, that sabotaged the Meridian. Her eyes drifted. She caught them. She pulled them back. Marcus, I am here. You have to do it. The threshold. You have to do it. Before he does it again, he is not done. He thinks he is saving his people by stopping you. He will try again. And next time. Iris, next time, it will not be me. He will go for the queen or for you. Marcus, you have to do it. Now. Ren arrived in the doorway. Lyrith arrived a half-second behind him. Lyrith saw Iris on the floor, and her face did something Marcus had never seen a face do. It was not horror. It was not grief. It was something deeper and older than both. It was the face of a queen who has just understood that the price of her decision has been paid by the wrong person. She knelt down. She put her hands on Iris's wound. Her aquamarine skin began to glow, faintly, then more, then in a low blue light that spread from her palms into Iris's side. Iris gasped, but she did not scream. The pain seemed to recede. What are you doing? Marcus said. What I can, Lyrith said. Can you save her? I do not know. Lyrith. I do not know, Marcus. I am sorry, I do not know. Iris's eyes met Marcus's. They were already starting to drift. Engineer. Iris. Tell Holly, when you see her, tell her, I held the line. Iris. I held the line. Her eyes closed. The light from Lyrith's hands burned brighter. The queen's face was tight. Her eyes had gone almost colorless with concentration. The light dimmed. Iris was still breathing. Slow, shallow, but breathing. "She is alive," Lyrith said. "I have done what I can. The rest is up to her body." Marcus did not say thank you. He could not say thank you. He put his hand on Iris's forehead, lightly, the way he used to put his hand on Holly's forehead when she had a fever. The way a man with no medical training puts his hand on the forehead of a person he loves, because that is what your hand wants to do. Then he stood. His knee no longer hurt. That was a lie. His knee was screaming. But he stood anyway. He turned to Lyrith. He turned to Ren. "Tomorrow morning," he said, "at dawn, the threshold." "Marcus," Lyrith said, "you are not ready. I will never be ready. It could kill you." "It could, yes." "Marcus." "Lyrith." "Why?" He looked at her. He looked at Iris on the floor. He looked at his own hands. He remembered Holly in a kitchen in Asheville saying, "Don't be alone too long." He remembered an old woman in a crystal garden saying, "Anger is a fire, and the choice is what you do with it." He remembered a brother who had wanted to be a teacher in a council chamber full of grief that had calcified into something cruel, and a million years of a family that had not known it was a family. Because Marcus said, "I am still here." He walked out. His knee carried him. Outside on the balcony, the city of Alindra pulsed in its slow blue rhythm. The threshold at the center of it stood dark and silent, waiting. The way something waits when it has waited for a million years in one more night is nothing. Marcus Holloway, engineer, age 43, widower with a knee he could not fix and a job he could not refuse, watched the threshold for a long time. It watched him back. Part 3. Dawn in Alindra was not a dawn. There was no sun, there was no horizon. There was only the city pulsing one shade brighter for a few hours, and then one shade brighter again. But the Valori called it dawn, and the Valori had been here long enough to name things whatever they wanted. Marcus stood at the base of the threshold. Up close, it gave off nothing. No light, no heat, no sound. The dark column rose 200 feet above him into a ceiling he could not see. The surface was not metal, not stone, not anything he knew. It was a texture of a question that had never been answered. The pull was strongest here, that feeling at the edge of a tall building, not the fear of falling. The other thing, the thing that comes before fear, the magnetic thing. Behind him, Lyrith stood. She had not spoken in 20 minutes. Her hands were behind her back. Her eyes were on him. He could feel the weight of them. Behind her, Ren stood, the soldier with the scar, arms crossed, watching the corridor for what might come down it. Behind Ren, the council had begun to assemble. They had been told. They had not been asked. Lyrith had sent the summons before dawn. She had not consulted them. She was the queen. She did not have to. Vex Karan was among them. He stood at the back. He did not look at Marcus. He looked at the threshold, as if it were a thing he had been waiting his whole life to see destroyed. Iris was not there. She was alive. She was in the medical chamber. She was sleeping. Lyrith's hands had done what they could, and Iris's body had done the rest. She would wake up. Probably. Eventually. The Valori healer had said probably. Marcus had decided to hear the word as yes. He turned to face the threshold. He took a breath. He thought about his wife. He thought about her one last time. Carefully, the way you fold a letter you are about to put away. He thought about the kitchen in Asheville. He thought about her hand on his cheek the night she had told him to go. He thought about the cup of coffee. He thought about the morning light through the blinds. He put it away. He put his hand on the threshold. The surface was warm. Then his hand was inside it. Then his arm. Then his shoulder. Then the rest of him. It did not hurt. It was like stepping into water that was exactly body temperature. The boundary between yourself and not yourself becoming unclear, and then disappearing entirely. Inside was dark. Not empty dark, busy dark. The darkness had texture. It had movement, currents flowing past him, carrying fragments of something he could almost recognize. Sound that was not quite sound, color that was not quite color. Then the images began to grow inside his mind, not projected from outside. They grew from within, the way memories surface from deep water. He saw Earth, but not his Earth. An Earth from so long ago the continents were strangers to each other. He saw a people. They resembled a rough draft of both human and Valori, tall, strange, beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. They built the threshold with their hands, and with something else, some ability that had no name in any language Marcus spoke. He watched them argue, not about politics, not about resources, not about territory, about identity. Half of them wanted to stay rooted, to stay biological, to stay bound to the earth that had made them, to remain human. The other half wanted to change, to adapt, to leave, to become something the planet could not contain, to open up, to reach out, to find what else was in the dark. The argument lasted generations. It ended not with violence. It ended with a sad mutual agreement to go separate ways. The stayers became human, the leavers became Valori, and the threshold was supposed to keep them connected, a bridge between two halves of something that was never meant to be halved. He watched it work for a long time, for an unimaginably long time. He watched humans visit. He watched Valori visit. He watched children of one branch sit with elders of the other and share things he could not name. He watched the threshold pulse with a slow blue rhythm in time with both species at once. Then he watched it stop being used. The human side forgot. Not on purpose, not at first. A generation lost the language. A generation lost the visit. A generation lost the memory of the bridge. By the fourth generation, the threshold was a story. By the eighth, it was a myth. By the 20th, it was nothing. The Valori side tried to keep it running alone. It could not be run alone. It needed both branches, both sides, both ends of the connection. 7 generations ago, the bridge had failed completely, and the fade had begun. A voice spoke, not a voice with a source, a voice that existed the way gravity exists, everywhere at once, pulling everything slightly toward itself. The bridge requires a continuous link, one mind anchored here, maintaining the connection between both sides. This was the original design. One mind, Marcus said. Yes. Forever. Yes. He thought about it. Not as a hero weighing a noble sacrifice, as an engineer staring at a design spec that was bad. And it was bad. A single point of failure in a system meant to last millions of years. One person at the bottleneck. One person holding the wire forever. One person against the whole weight of 2 species. That was not flawed. That was lazy. No, Marcus said. That is a terrible design, and whoever came up with it should be embarrassed. The silence that followed was the most surprised silence Marcus had ever experienced. He was talking to an ancient consciousness older than his species, the way he would talk to a junior engineer who had submitted a bad schematic. He did not care. Bad design was bad design, regardless of how old it was. Spread the load, Marcus continued. Instead of one dedicated connection, make it 1,000 lightweight connections. Make it 1,000,000. Each person, human or Valerie, carries a tiny fraction of the bandwidth. Nobody is a bottleneck. Nobody is trapped. If one connection drops, the network compensates. It is basic redundancy. This approach has never been tested, the voice said. Lots of things have never been tested until somebody tested them. Your original design had 1,000,000 years to prove itself, and it failed. I think we can afford to try something new." He paused. He was about to do something. He was about to do something that was not in the spec. "And," he said, "and I am going to add a feature." "What feature?" "Memory. Memory. The bridge should not just carry the signal. The bridge should carry the truth. Every Valerie and every human who connects to this network should be able to see what they have forgotten, the shared history, the original family, the argument that was not supposed to end with forgetting. I am tired of people not knowing where they came from. I am tired of grief that is curdled into hate because nobody can see the whole picture. So I am going to give them the whole picture, all of them, at once." The silence again, longer this time. "You do not have the authority to add features." "I know. You are not the designer." "No, I am the engineer. The designer drew the schematic. The engineer makes it actually work. And the engineer adds the features the designer should have included in the first place." A pause. He almost felt the consciousness consider him. He almost felt it. Smile. Proceed. He did not wait for further permission. The internal architecture of the threshold was laid out around him like a blueprint drawn in light. His engineer's brain was already pulling it apart. He stripped out the central node. He rebuilt the routing. He created pathways that branched and reconnected and branched again. A web instead of a spoke. A net instead of a chain. Designed to carry signal across thousands of individual connections instead of one. Designed to flex. Designed to fail safely. Designed to compensate. And then, he added the memory. He took the ancient images, the argument, the split, the forgetting, the grief, the mistake. He took them all, and he hung them on the new network like Christmas lights on a tree, so that any mind connected to the bridge could see them. All of them. The whole picture. It was not elegant the way the original was elegant. It was messy and distributed and redundant and alive, like a city, like a conversation. Like any system that actually works in the real world rather than on paper. When he finished, the threshold pushed him back out. He landed on his hands and knees on the floor of Alindra. Blood ran from his nose. His vision whited out at the edges. His bad knee screamed at him in a voice that sounded a great deal like his own. Behind him, the threshold lit up, not a flicker, not a detonation of blue light shot through with threads of gold, rolling outward through the city like a shockwave made of color instead of force. The walls of Alindra flushed bright. From the gray of long dimming to the vivid living blue Marcus had seen only in glimpses. The bridges overhead pulsed and sang. The lower city woke. Lights came back in clusters. The organic walls flexed and breathed with vigor they had not shown in 7 generations. The dark veins that ran through the streets, channels he had assumed were decorative, filled with blue-white light like irrigation ditches catching the first rain after a 100-year drought. And then, the other thing, the thing he had added. Marcus felt it begin. He felt it ripple. The memory, the ancient images, the shared history, pouring outward across the new network, reaching every Valori and Alindra at once. He felt them receive it. He could not see them. He could not hear them. But he felt them. He felt the city stop breathing for one long second. And then, he felt them weep. Every Valori and Alindra, at the same time, wept. He could feel it as a low pressure in his own chest, as if he were standing in a room where 10,000 people had just discovered the same impossible thing at the same impossible second. They had seen the truth. They had seen who they were. They had seen who they had been. They had seen the family. They had seen what they had forgotten. They had seen what had been taken from them by the simple, slow act of not remembering. Lyrith was at his side first. She pressed something against his nose that smelled terrible and stopped the bleeding. Her hands were shaking. They had not shaken before. They were shaking now. "You stupid man!" Did it work? Look around you. He looked. Alindra was waking, not all at once, in patches, in stutters, like a city recovering from a blackout the way real cities recover from blackouts. Imperfectly, beautifully, one block at a time. He turned his head. The council was still in the chamber behind him. He could see them through the great open arch. 22 Valori, all weeping, including Vex Koran. He was on his knees. He had not knelt before. He had stood. He had stood the whole time. He had stood when Marcus walked in. He had stood when Lyrith spoke. He had stood when the threshold began to light. Now he was on his knees. His face was in his hands. His shoulders were shaking the way the shoulders of a very old man shake, when the dam he has built around a 300-year grief finally cracks. Lyrith stood. She helped Marcus stand. His knee took his weight. The knee took his weight, with less complaint than it had ever taken his weight in 23 years. He looked down at his own leg. He did not understand. He looked at Lyrith. She looked back at him. The network, she said, it does not only carry signal to us, it carries to you, to both branches. We have been missing you. You have been missing us. The bridge connects both sides. You did not just save us, Marcus. You saved yourself a little too. My knee. Yes. It is not healed. It is not, but it is less. He flexed it. It was less. It was not nothing. He was still going to limp. He was still going to wake up tomorrow and feel it first. But it was less. He almost laughed. He did not laugh. There was no time to laugh, because the council was rising from its weeping, and Vex Koran was the last one on his knees, and the chamber was very quiet, and the queen was watching. Lyrith walked. She walked into the council chamber, past the assembled counselors, past Ren, past the place where Marcus had stood the day before to be insulted. She walked to Vex Koran. She knelt in front of him. She put her hand under his chin, lifted his face. His eyes were red. Old eyes were always more red than young eyes when they had been weeping. They had farther to come back from. Vex, she said. He did not answer. Vex Koran, look at me. He looked. She did not speak loudly, but the chamber was a crystal dome and her voice carried. You lost 3 children to the Fade. Yes. You lost a wife. Yes. You believed it was the fault of humans. Yes. You believed it because that belief was a place to put your grief, and grief without a place to go becomes hatred. Yes. Vex, my queen. You have just seen what I have just seen. We are one family. We were always one family. Your grief is mine, and mine is yours, in the humans on the meridian. The 4,712 of them are your family too. They are the kin we have been missing. They are the kin who have been missing us. We have wept for 1,000,000 years, and we did not know what we were weeping for. He started to weep again. Old men weep differently than young men. They weep without sound. They weep with the whole face slowly, the way the face of a glacier weeps when the spring comes. My queen, I sent men to kill the engineer. I sent men to destroy the proof. I know. I am responsible for the wound to the biologist. I know. I am responsible for what I said to him in this chamber about his leg. I know. My queen, I do not, I cannot forgive myself. I am not asking you to forgive yourself. What are you asking? She looked at him. Her eyes held his. I am asking you to live long enough to make it right. I am not pardoning you. The council will decide your punishment by our law. But I am asking you, as your queen, and as the daughter of a woman you knew when she was a child, to stay alive long enough to carry what you now know to anyone who will listen. The truth you tried to hide, Vex, the truth you spent 3 centuries hating, now you carry it, the way you would have carried your son if the fate had not taken him. You carry it now. He could not answer. He nodded. It was the smallest nod a Valori had ever given. It was also the largest. Lyrith helped him to his feet. She did not let go of his hand. She turned, with him, to face the chamber. Council, this man has done harm. He has admitted it. He will face our law, but he is also your brother, and our family is too small now to afford the loss of him. We will not put him out. We will not cast him down. We will carry him, the way we should have carried him 3 centuries ago, when he buried his last child. And no one came. She let go of his hand. She turned. She walked back to Marcus. She stopped in front of him. She did not say thank you. She did not need to. Her eyes said it for her. He did not say you are welcome. He did not need to. His tired half-smile said it for him. They woke the Meridian's passengers slowly. Not all at once. 200 a week. The Valori had built temporary chambers for them in the lower city. Iris woke from her medical coma 3 days after the threshold lit. She woke up with a wound that had become a scar and a stack of new questions she was already writing down before her eyes were fully open. Marcus visited her every day. He told her about the threshold. He told her about the network. He told her about Vex. She listened. Then she said, Marcus, yes. You added a feature. Yes. Without permission. Yes. That is the most engineer thing I have ever heard. He laughed. Eleanor Whitfield woke up on the 18th day. She was 72. She had been a teacher. 4th grade. 41 years in a public school in Toledo. She came out of the cryo pod coughing, and the first thing she said when her eyes focused was, not where am I, and was not what year is it. It was, oh. Just, oh. She was looking at the ceiling, which was doing the thing the ceilings did. The slow rolling waves of pale blue, the veins of light crawling through. Oh, Eleanor said. Oh, that is just lovely. Marcus had been the one waiting for her. He had asked to be the one waiting for her. He sat by her cryopod and held her hand the way you hold the hand of someone who has just woken from a long sleep. Light, steady, not too tight. Mrs. Whitfield? Eleanor, dear, please, Mrs. Whitfield was my mother-in-law. Eleanor, I have a lot to tell you. About where we are, about what year it is, about who we are with. I am going to tell you all of it. And I want you to know, none of it is your fault, and none of it is your problem to solve. We just woke you up because we thought you would like to see the ceiling. She turned her head. She looked at him. She had the bluest eyes he had ever seen on a human being. Faded a little at the edges the way blue eyes go in their 70s. But bright. So bright. How long have I been asleep, dear? He told her. She did not panic. She did not weep. She thought about it for almost a full minute, with her eyes on the ceiling, with her hand in his. Well, Eleanor said, finally, that is a lot to wake up to. Yes, ma'am. My husband. He is gone, Eleanor. He has been gone a long time. How long? 1,000 years. She nodded, slowly. Then he has waited long enough. I will see him when I see him. Tell me about this place. He told her about the Valori. He told her about Lyrith. He told her about the fade and the threshold and the bridge. He told her about the family, the original family, the 1,000,000 years. She listened. When he was done, she looked at the ceiling again. What a lovely thing, Eleanor said. What a lovely, lovely thing. We had family the whole time. And we did not know. Oh, that is just the kind of news you wait your whole life for. She squeezed his hand. It was a strong squeeze, for a woman who had just woken from a 1,000-year nap. Now, she said, where are the children? What children? There are children, are there not? Of these, Valerie, surely they have children. They do. I would like to meet them. I have been a teacher for 41 years. I do not know what else to do. Take me to the children, please. He smiled. Yes, ma'am. He took her. 6 months passed. A city that had been dying for 7 generations stopped dying. The walls that had grown dim grew bright. The bridges that had begun to fray began to grow back. The Valori who had been deep in the fade did not heal all at once, because biology is not a switch, but the progression stopped and the symptoms eased, and children who had been born expecting to be dead by 40 began to understand that they would live. 4,712 humans woke up. They did not all wake up gracefully. Some of them came out swinging. A retired security officer named Hector Graves came out with his fists up and did not lower them for 3 days. A woman named June Kowalski woke up convinced she was still on the meridian and that the alien city outside her window was a hallucination caused by a faulty pod, and she refused food for 2 days before her granddaughter, who had woken up the day before her, sat down on the floor of the medical chamber and cried until June believed her. Eleanor Whitfield ran the children's program. Within 10 days, she had set up a classroom. Within 20 days, the Valori had asked her to take their children too. Within 30 days, there were 36 children in her classroom, 11 human, 25 Valori. They did not have a shared language. Eleanor did not care. She had taught 4th grade for 41 years. Children, she informed Marcus over tea in her small new quarters, were children, and children would figure out what they needed to figure out as long as the adults had the good sense to provide crayons and not get in the way. Ren Vask was promoted. The council at Lyrith's insistence made him commander of a new unified security force. Half Valori, half human. He hated it for the first 3 months. He stopped hating it sometime around the 4th. By the 5th, he was teaching a human teenager how to fight with a Valori blade. By the 6th, he had taken a small apartment 2 corridors away from Marcus's, and he came over for what he called the strange human ritual of having tea while talking about nothing important. Vex Karen did not die. The council had voted after long deliberation that he would carry the truth. Publicly. To every Valerie community that still survived in the broken outlying ruins of the failed cities. He went. He stood up. He told them what he had done. He told them what he had hated. He told them what he now knew. It almost killed him to do it. He did it anyway. He came home eventually, smaller than he had left. He sat with Eleanor at the children's classroom and watched a Valori boy try to teach a human girl how to make a crystal sing. He did not say much. He did not need to. Iris recovered. The scar on her side became a thin, pale line that she only thought about when she changed clothes. She returned to her work. She and 3 Valori biologists wrote a paper that if it had been written on Earth in any century, Marcus understood would have won every prize in the field. They submitted it to a Valori scientific council. The council printed it. Iris kept the printed copy on her wall, above her desk, where she could see it when she was tired. And Marcus walked. His knee, which had been bad for 23 years, became a knee that was less bad. He still woke up and felt it first, but it bent now without complaining. It carried him upstairs. It carried him down corridors. It carried him. He walked Alindra every morning. He walked the lower city. He walked the upper towers. He walked the small new sections where humans had begun to build. Boxy, metallic, wrong-looking next to the organic curves of Valori construction. He liked that it looked wrong. Anything that looked perfectly harmonious this early would have been a lie. He went to see the threshold every Sunday. He had decided privately that Sunday was the day. Holly had liked Sundays. She had liked the slow quiet of them, the way the world wound down for 1 day a week before starting again. He kept her Sunday. He brought it with him to Alindra. He gave it to the threshold. The column was no longer dark. It pulsed now, slow, blue, gold-threaded, alive. It looked, Marcus thought, like a heart, or like the inside of a heart, or like the thing a heart is for. On a Sunday 6 months after the threshold lit, he stood on the high balcony where once a queen had almost touched his hand. It was not yet evening. The city below pulsed in its slow blue rhythm. Far below, in the small classroom on the lower level, he could hear faintly a sound that was either a Valori child laughing or a human child laughing, or both at the same time. It was impossible to tell anymore. Lyrith arrived beside him without sound. She did that. He had stopped flinching about a month ago. Ren says the integration is proceeding better than projected, she said. Ren projects everything to end in disaster. Beating his projections is not hard. He likes you, you know. He has a strange way of showing it. All Valerie do. They stood at the railing. The lights below were blue and gold and warm white. Mixed up, uneven, real. My knee is better, Marcus said. It was a strange thing to share. He shared it anyway. I am glad. Lyrith, yes. Holly, my wife, when she was dying, she told me not to be alone too long. I know, you told me. I have been thinking about that a lot the last few months. She did not say anything. She waited. I do not know what it is, to not be alone too long. I am not sure I ever knew. I am sure I do not know what it would look like. Here, in this city, with you, I am sure I do not have answers. I am sure I have a lot more questions than I expected to have at this point in my life, which was supposed to be over 1,000 years ago. Marcus, yes, you do not need to know yet. No, you can just be here. Yes, with me. Yes. She did not move her hand. He did not move his. They were not touching. They were not quite touching. They were the inch apart they had been the night before everything almost went wrong. The inch had held. The inch was still holding. The inch did not need to close yet. The inch was in its way a promise. He looked out over the city he had not asked for. A city full of two species still learning how to share a hallway. A city built around a bridge he had redesigned with the engineering equivalent of duct tape and stubbornness. A city where a 72-year-old teacher from Toledo was at this very moment probably making 36 children draw something they would not have known how to draw a week ago. A city where a soldier with a scar was somewhere below teaching a human teenager how to hold a blade. A city where an old man who had hated for 3 centuries was sitting in a classroom learning how to listen. It was messy. It was loud. It was going to be difficult for a very long time. His knee did not hurt. The ceiling above them pulsed with light, part blue, part gold, somewhere below. A human child laughed at something a Valori child had done, and somewhere very far away in a kitchen that had not existed for 1,000 years, a woman named Holly, who had loved him very much, was finally allowed to know that he had heard her. He had not been alone too long. It was not a grand ending. It was not a resolution that tied up every thread into a neat bow. It was just a Tuesday in a new world, and Marcus Holloway, engineer, age 43, widower, with a knee that had carried him past every reason to stop, was finally awake. And that brings us to the end of the story. If you stayed with us until the very end, share your thoughts in the comments, whether the story moved you or not. Your feedback helps us bring you more stories like this one. Leave a like, subscribe for more, and on the screen, you will see another story we think you will love. A big hug from us, and we will see you in the next story.